Welcome to Reduce CO2 Now. This is about food and diet, and especially about the CO2 diet. So, what has diet to do with reducing CO2? Well, it's comparatively simple. If you look at the whole world, it's one thing. And you see that the CO2 level in the atmosphere is rising and the rate of increase is going up. And it's a whole world. We are producing more CO2 from fossil fuels all the time. You will see that there are only like 4 levers which work on a global way to actually make a difference on CO2. First off is energy, and of course, like to increase the price of fossil fuel. It's not sufficient to just have more solar power installed because we get more stuff all the time. No, we have to find ways to really increase the price of fossil fuel and reduce the usage of fossil fuel. Then we have the second lever, returning carbon to the ground. And for 1 and 2, we always have like separate videos for those. Then like reforesting the planet is like lever number 3, because currently we are losing 5 gigatons per year in forests. That's about the amount of land use change what we have. That means basically like cutting down rainforests and burning them. And of course, other forests around as well. Why do we do this? Well, it's not that we don't have enough space. It's we are usually doing this to get more agricultural space. And that's why, reforesting the planet is one complete issue. The next one is food and diet. Because why do we need all this agricultural space? You say maybe, oh, we have hunger in the world. No, we could easily feed everybody in the world with all the agricultural space what we already have. But we are using it in a way that we use a lot of area to feed animals, in turn then feed humans. And if we would all go to a more optimized diet, we could easily feed the whole world, that everybody has something to eat. And we could like at least half of the agricultural space could be reforested. That would be make an enormous difference. Some studies say up to 80%. So food and diet, very, very important. Currently, it looks more like this, that we cut down forests to make room for more agricultural space and to make a difference right now in the way the world is going, to make a difference in climate change and global warming. We have to reforest the planet. We have to build more areas for trees, countries, like we have to retake like areas which made me now desert. There are some examples in China, for example, where they are really successful in putting like trees in places where they haven't been growing. So reforesting, one very important thing, because a tree is a carbon removing system. It takes carbon from the air, puts it into physical form, takes it out of the air. And of course, reforesting and food and diet are heavily connected, because you try to, you see there on the image, there's like all this area, all this land, which is used for cows, for animals to grow. And we also like have enormous areas of land where we produce something like soybean or corn and then to feed these animals with that. And why do we do this? Yes, we like to eat meat, and especially like red meat is really bad because the cows are producing they're not only using the land and the CO2, it's also like methane emissions. So there's like an additional greenhouse gas which has a high impact. Usually we talk there from CO2 equivalent, that we can count it as the same way. That means if you're eating something like chickpeas, for dinner, you're getting like nice proteins from that. Look like the plate over there. It's basically plant-based food. And that is a much, much lower CO2 impact than if you would be eating red meat all the time. And that is really what this whole area is about. If the whole world would be really eating optimal for CO2, we could like easily just use half of the agricultural area of today, feed the whole planet, and all live well. This is, our CO2 diet approach is like to optimize this. You don't have to be something like a vegan or a vegetarian to be really 100%. No, you can eat meat every now and then if you really enjoy this. It's really about making a difference on a global scale. And here again, in this image, you see land is used, trees are cut down, then land is used to farm crops. Then, we use these crops to feed animals. Then, this also, the animals are producing CO2 and, the forest is cut and we have like a change in land use. We have all the CO2 and methane coming. And if everybody would be eating differently, yeah, really like instead of a lot of meat, like we have it like in the United States or in Europe, we eat like really a lot of meat in general. If that would change, also like with dairy products and other stuff, but really, if the diet would be much more optimized for CO2 and everybody still has a really good time, and by the way, it's also like more healthy. An optimized diet would make a change in the whole world, and then lots of areas in the world could be reforested. But just knowing that like eating red meat isn't really good for CO2 is one thing. We want to support people and make a difference there in the world. And we start by one thing, and we said we call it the CO2 diet. So we are like making a whole system where you are eating optimally for CO2, and we want to do an application. So we want to make a software application where you can track your food, you have your personalized nutrition, you track your CO2, you track your calories, nutrition, and so on. And, it's good for cost tracking as well. And our idea is to have a competitive edge in the sense it's going to be free, there's no advertising, and we have a very high level of privacy. So this is in software development we are doing already. And there's another video explaining that kind of thing in detail. Then we are developing a whole food and diet system. So we call it the CO2 diet. It's not only that, what kind of food you are eating, optimal for CO2. It's the awareness for the climate impact. That's one thing. And we are like going in the direction of eating more like vegetables and these kind of things, which are more healthy anyway. They have a lower caloric density, so there's less calories inside of this stuff. So it's all good for a diet. And if you want to lose weight and of course your overall health, it's a little bit like a Mediterranean type of diet, lots of salad and these kind of things. But in this diet system, most people know how to lose weight. It's like really simple. The losing weight is like you eat less, you move more, exercise more, and you drink adequately. So, and that's basically how to lose weight. And you do this for a very long time. The only problem is that most people who want to lose weight don't succeed. And there are like all these books and methods out there which focus on like recipes and what kind of method or what kind of food you should be eating. But hey, what we are focusing in the system here is like, 90+% psychology and not on recipes or so on, because that's what's going to make a difference. That you have support, not only for an application, you have like psychological support. And one on our roadmap is to build something like a network. We call this Amazon for Services. It's really like, imagine you have a personal coach, somebody who's like calling you every day and asking, hey, come on, what did you eat yesterday? Did you exercise? Did you follow your plan? How is your weight today? How, and so on. So somebody who's like taking care of you, you are like reporting to that person every day. And that might be like a 10-minute call or something like this. And you pay something like, let's say $1 for this every day to that person. That would be not much money for somebody who's like really getting help and motivation to lose weight and follow a diet. But maybe you are really supporting already half a family from somewhere in a low income country. And that comes together with another thing we are working on. It's called eBay for carbon credits is one thing. Yeah, Amazon for services. It's another software kind of application we have on our roadmap, which come together here in the sense of food and diet application. So there's another video about the software development. So let's briefly go over this. Why are we actually doing all these kind of things? So You might be thinking, hey, climate change, there's all these climate conferences, a lot of people are doing good things like, driving electric cars, building solar power, wind turbines, all these kind of things. You might thinking that we are on a good way, that like, for example, in Europe, we are using less fossil fuels than before. Yeah. But here, this is the bottom line. It's like sometimes people try to reduce the costs in the company, but then on the bottom line, nothing really changes. And this is here the bottom line. The bottom line for CO2 is the Keeling curve. It's measured in parts per million. We have 432 parts per million record in May 2026. And you see the red curve is the curve of CO2 in the air from the 1960s onwards. It's going up, and the way it's going up is increasing. So it's bent upwards. The rate of change is increasing. The CO2 in the air is increasing, and the increase is also increasing. Yeah? So it's bent upward. And why is the CO2 increasing and increasing ever faster? That's like also very simple. It's because we put more fossil fuels and emissions on the planet all the time. So we had like a record in 2025, 38.1 billion tons of CO2 emitted by us human beings from fossil fuels. And then there's in addition about 5 billion tons from land use change. So why the CO2 is increasing, that's like quite straightforward. It's because we put more of this stuff into the air all the time. So the source is CO2, and the result is that the global temperature is increasing, and also that increase is likely going up. Here you see we have 1.55 degrees of global warming. That chart is showing global temperature since the 1850 period. And you see here that from the 1960s onward, the trend for the global temperature is to go up. And it seems to be going up even faster, but at least like in a straight line, it's going up all the time. It's going to be going up in the future because we put more CO2 in the air. So, the bad news, by the way, is this is global temperature. The planet is 70% water, which is not picking up the heat that fast. So you're living on land, I assume. And that means you have roughly double that temperature in the land temperature chain. In Germany, for example, we have results that the German temperature is increasing with nearly double the rate than global average. So that means things like heat waves and so on are increasingly coming more often because it's called global warming for a reason. It's getting warmer and hotter. Here are some of the observed impacts, consequences of global warming and climate change. Hey, it's getting warmer. We just had this. We have more extreme weather, flooding, for example. There are a lot of areas, there's more wildfires, it's drier. We lose glaciers and ice is melting. So that's then causing sea level rise. Also, like the warmer temperatures in the water are getting coral reefs to die. And, you have like lots and lots of consequences. And as you have seen, CO2 is going up ever faster. The temperature is going up all the time. So that's going to continue. It's getting worse. We just have seen the beginning. Imagine how the world will be where your children and grandchildren are maybe going to live in. So if you want to do something about this, join us on Discord and then come to one of our online meetings. Joining us on Discord is really simple. In any case, just like come to our Discord server. You find there the link is also in the description. You can also go to reduceco2now.com, our website. Then you join this Discord server. You go to the event section. This is actually like meetings, which are called events on Discord. You join one of these meetings, like in recurring one, there are like the video conferences. You introduce yourself and then we discuss your participation and what are you going to do. So thank you very much for watching. Please share, like, subscribe, and do all the things here. Comment on the social media, everything, like invite other people and talk about this, inform other people. The problem of global warming and climate change is getting worse. It's going to be much more severe than you think. And Let's do something about this. Let's turn climate change around.